أيها الأحبة أينما كنتم، أرحب بكم إلى هذا النشاط الجديد من أنشطة المركز العربي الأمريكي للثقافة والفنون وبرنامج تاريخ الصراع العربي الإسرائيلي، والذي يسعى لإلقاء الضوء على جوانب مختلفة من جوانب هذا الصراع، ولإظهار مقدار التوحش الصهيوني الذي وصل في حرب غزة الراهنة إلى حد القيام بحملة إبادة جماعية بحق الفلسطينيين. اليوم أيها الأحبة سنكون مع الحلقة 17 من هذا البرنامج، وعنوانها شاهد عيان على الإبادة الجماعية في غزة. وليس أقدر ممن كان على الأرض في غزة كي يروي لنا مشاهداته اليومية خلال الفترة التي أمضاها هناك. نستضيف في هذه الحلقة طبيبين عربيين كانا ضمن فريق من الأطباء توجهوا للمشاركة في تقديم المساعدة للغزاويين، وعادوا بتجربة قاسية ومريرة جديرة بأن تروى لإظهار فظاعة المحتل وجرائمه الهمجية. معنا سيكون في هذه الحلقة الدكتور آدم فحص والدكتور ديفيد حسن. أيها الأحبة، قبل أن نبدأ، نقطتان. الأولى ترتبط بهذا اليوم 13 من نيسان أبريل، إذ بعد سنة من الآن بالضبط يحل اليوبيل الذهبي للحرب الأهلية في لبنان. تلك الحرب التي اندلعت شرارتها في 13 من نيسان أبريل سنة 1975 واستمرت 15 عاما. ومما يؤسف له أن الأوضاع الراهنة في بلدنا ليست على ما يرام، فعسى أن يتعظ القيمون على البلد وهم كثر، فلا يسمح باندلاع شرارة الحرب الأهلية من جديد. وكلنا يذكر حجم الخراب والدمار الذي لحق بلبنان واللبنانيين خلال تلك المرحلة الصعبة. أما النقطة الثانية فترتبط بغزة والعيد. عيد غزة أيها الأحبة هذا العام لم يكن مثل ما سبقه. يقول الرواة إن عيد الفطر الذي كان سعيدا تنازل عن لقبه لأنه بات بلا معنى، وأعلن إضرابه عن العمل تضامنا مع أطفال غزة. ويقول آخرون إنهم شاهدوا العيد يحاول العبور إلى أحياء غزة، لكنه تاه وسط الخراب العظيم الذي يلف المدينة من ألفها إلى يائها. ويقول غيرهم إن طفلا غزاويا رفع يافطة أمام بيته المدمر كتب عليها: يمر العيد وكأنه لا يعرفني. ولما رآها العيد استشاط غضبا وخجلا، وقرر التواري عن الأنظار حتى لا يرى دمعة ألم تهل على وجنة طفل بريء تغتاله آلة الجريمة الصهيونية. وتؤكد جميع المعطيات المتواترة من ساحات غزة وأزقتها المستباحة أن قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي رصدت العيد وهو يحاول التسلل إلى غزة، فاستهدفته بقذائف حقدها لتتركه أشلاء بين البيوت المدمرة. وليس ذلك بغريب عليها، فمن يقتل الأطفال بدم بارد لن يتورع عن قتل العيد وإعدام كل ما له علاقة بالحياة والفرح. ولكن أيها الأحبة، الدم المسفوك بغزة لا بد سيروي الأرض لتعرش ذات صباح نبتة فرح مختلفة لا تقوى كل وحوش الحقد على اجتثاثها، ولتحمل فوق ورقها الممتد كبيدر حنطة صور الشهداء من الأطفال وهم يلبسون لباس العيد، لكنه سيكون عيدا وليس كأي عيد، فالعيد الذي روته دماء الأطفال أكثر صدقا وقداسة. ذاك العيد أيها الأحبة لا بد سيأتي، وإن غدا لناظره قريب. أيها الأحبة، في شهر كانون الأول ديسمبر الماضي توجه فريق طبي في مهمة إنسانية إلى غزة ضمن مؤسسة رحمة العالمية، والتي كانت أول مؤسسة غير حكومية سمح لها بالدخول إلى غزة. في عداد هذا الفريق كان ضيفانا الدكتور آدم فحص والدكتور ديفيد حسن. سنبدأ أولا مع الدكتور ديفيد حسن. هو بروفيسور وجراح أعصاب في جامعة ديوك في نورث كارولاينا، المدير المشارك لمركز ديوك للسكتة الدماغية، المدير الطبي لقسم الأوعية الدموية في جامعة ديوك، مدير المركز الخاص بتشوه الأوعية الدموية الصغيرة في الدماغ والحبل الشوكي في جامعة ديوك، خريج جامعات تكساس. نشر أو شارك في نشر أكثر من 300 بحث علمي متخصص، شارك في كتابة فصول في عدة كتب علمية، هو عضو في العديد من المؤسسات العلمية، ونال العشرات من الميداليات والجوائز والأوسمة. قام بمراجعة عشرات المخطوطات في مجالات طبية وعلمية مختلفة، ولا سيما في حقل جراحة الأعصاب. راجع العديد من المنح الحكومية الدولية في كل من فرنسا وألمانيا وسويسرا وبولندا وكرواتيا ودولة الإمارات وهونغ كونغ. أشرف على أكثر من 20 مشروعا علميا، حاضر في مؤتمرات علمية في العشرات من دول العالم وفي عشرات المؤتمرات المحلية في الولايات المتحدة. قام بتنظيم العديد من اللقاءات العلمية والبحثية، كما كان عضوا في لجان لتنظيم مؤتمرات محلية ودولية في مجالات جراحة الأعصاب والسكتة الدماغية. أيها الأحبة، نرحب بالدكتور ديفيد حسن. دكتور ديفيد, you are most welcome to our show. It's your time. You have as much as you need to speak up. If you can speak in Arabic, that will be excellent. If not, English will be good. It's your time.
Well, shukran, Akhi, and assalamu alaikum. And I'm going to try to speak in English, but can you see my screen, shared screen? Okay. So I've been privileged to travel twice to Gaza now. First time I was the first group to enter Gaza after October 7th. That was back in December around Christmas, and we spent a week. And then this last trip was just 2 weeks ago. So I'm gonna just share with you some of the images and pictures, what I saw personally, and that's the best way. I don't want to add adjectives or words. This is an eyewitness first account of what we saw in the first trip, and then I'll try to kind of quickly kind of cover and tell you the contrast of what happened over 3 months since our last visit. So we start with first. I would like to kind of tell you about that. What's happening in Gaza is a complete collapse of the healthcare. There's 3 things that pockets that people are not aware of and focus only on the trauma, but there is really the bigger pockets like non-communicable diseases where people have hypertension, heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, cancer, and those people have not been taken care of at this point. They have not received any medication. They're not getting adequate treatment or management or follow-up because the whole system, which is only have 4 to 5 hospital functioning, 2 big one is functioning, partially functioning is Al-Aqsa in the middle of Gaza, European Gaza Hospital, and then we have 3 field hospitals, IMC, Qatari, Emirati, and I think the Kuwait is still functioning. And Najjar is in Rafah is a small scale. And then the other big thing that we are worried about so much is the communicable diseases, example, infection from hepatitis A to diarrhea, to cholera, to other flu, COVID, etc. And combined with this horrendous and lack of sanitation and the famine. People are now 1.1 million people are in famine, not in the progress to famine, but in famine that makes their body very weak. All that combined together create the perfect, I call level 5 hurricane that's leading to precipitation of the destruction of the healthcare in Gaza. And here is the ingredients that we look at and we see what caused that, the healthcare collapse in Gaza and how we can recover it. We're working now with several NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to help refunction the system. One of the things, there's only now 2 CAT scans in the whole entire Gaza, one in a European hospital and one is in an Emirati field hospital not functioning. And yesterday I was called and told that it's not functioning. So I'm working with companies to find one CT, and we've identified that company. Without it, they're not going to be able to offer care for 1.5 million people in Khan Yunis and Rafah. But these are the ones I'm telling you right here is medical evacuation, sustainable medical supplies. There's no medical supplies, constant lack of that. They come in intermittent. Sometimes we had to perform anesthetic procedures like amputation without anesthetics, C-section without anesthetics, and other procedures. Lack of electricity, water, food, fuel, sanitation, safety. A lot of physicians are staying at home because of the lack of safety. They travel back and forth to the hospitals. All this kind of led to the collapse of healthcare in Gaza. And hopefully, if we take that in consideration, will allow us to kind of rebuild it. The most important problem at this point, not actual the physical trauma, the injuries from the bombarding and shelling, but actually the lack of water, especially in northern Gaza, where about 400,000 people are trapped with minimal access to anything. People are there drinking from toilet paper if they can find toilet. They are eating. I've seen in my eyes in the second trip where people are just a horse got bombarded and immediately several people came in and started eating, cutting the horses so they can while it's warm so they can eat it. And people are eating some goats feed and others. So the famine and the water is the biggest problem now in northern Gaza and to a lesser extent in southern Gaza. But this is what tells you how much water you need per day to sustain life. And now you are lucky to get an 8 ounces of water a day in some of these areas. Also, we have to keep in mind that before October 7th, there was about 500 trucks that were entering Gaza. That's our aid from NARWA and other organizations, 500. And that system during that time, Gaza was functioning to good function. And now with the complete catastrophe in Gaza, there's only about 100 to 200 trucks per day to try to cover all this humanitarian aid. And we all heard about what happened to some of these. Northern Gaza doesn't get anything at this point, but hopefully with the new pressure from the United States, they just opened Erez and they entered some trucks there. So that tells you the humanitarian aid. Now, this all kind of put so much psychological pressure on me and to travel to Gaza. And this is from the first trip where I kind of packed all my instruments that went to Gaza. And this is my daughter Hannah, who was able to share Merry Christmas with family, and she even sent lollipops and toys for the kids during the Christmas. I tell you, this is what's happening in Gaza. As we drove about 10 miles before arriving to Gaza, there were about, I would say, hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks not able to enter to Gaza, and this, sitting there for 2 to 3 weeks. And on top of that, the Egyptian people are making these trucks pay fees for waiting in Egypt to enter Gaza. So this is some of the problems we face. The first problem, this is we entering Gaza. When we entered the hospital, we saw a sea of people living within the hospital. The hospital is considered relatively the safe camp or for people, all from northern Gaza and mid-Gaza. So when we entered there, approximately about 40, 50,000 people were living within the campus of the hospital and within the building. And this is how people live in a tent within the hospital. They eat, drink, sanitation. They have no access to bathrooms. Um, and here they're baking bread. This is the trash buildup, which is horrendous because it's a factory for communicable diseases and infection. And you can see it's right close to the water, and we make it a perfect recipe for a disaster for spreading cholera, hepatitis C, and other diseases. This is inside the hospital. People are just putting curtains, and you say in one curtain here, one side, you see about 8, 9 people living in the hospital, and you can see that's eating, drinking. They right here, nurses. I mean, I say nurses. Women are sitting by the elevators trying to cook, using any access to electricity to cook food for their families. They even cook food in the bathrooms where it's just sewage kind of flushing back from that. This is also inside the hospital because the sanitation, flies everywhere. Perfect. This is the bathrooms, which is sometimes floods, and inside the hospital, and people have no access. If you get a shower once a while, you're a very, very lucky person. There's some kids have gone 6 months without taking a shower and have all kind of lice and other diseases with the skin. And these are some of the injuries I'm going to share with you that we saw, from simple scratches to severe injuries as a kid. I'm going fast because there's a lot of slides. Management here. These are some of the injuries, if you will see, hands, eyes. You know, this is we witnessed. This is a kid that came by himself. He was almost 2 years old. His family all died, and when he came in, this is one I broke my heart the most. I took a picture of him. I tried to find his family outside. I couldn't. So that's one person that, if you will, I couldn't let go of him. I had held him. I called him, named him, and cried for him, and wept for him, and prayed for him. This is one story of many, many kids. There's another kid who was blasted into many pieces. They put him in a bag because it was hard to see his face. Another kid was in a white bag. People are, injuries.
Wow. Wow.
This is sometimes we didn't have access to OR because there was only 5 ORs, and sometimes we had to do 2 cases in one room, which I never heard. So that's a person in the middle and trying to do 2 cases. And that day there was a lack of water, so I used to bottle water to wash my hands to do the procedure. This is where we are doing surgeries here. But again, this is our kids. The challenges here, as you see right here, there's lack of instruments. You can see here, this is what we use. We use a scalpel. We use it for everything, not even a handle. You put it in your pocket. You say, wipe it in alcohol to use it. This is an example of after we do a perfect surgery, there's no post-op, no antibiotics, no narcotics. And these people are just die after that from infection as they still the environment. So some of the doctors who working in the hospital, they work 24 hours and they go home. And sometimes when they go home, they find their whole house is being collapsed and bombarded, and they lost their family. So not only the physical, but also the psychological stress that these healthcare providers had. And some of them even themselves got shot in their way to the hospital or on their way to home after a full day in the hospital. So this is, a brief. I don't want to take a lot of time, but this is some of the images, some of the things we experienced. Now, was in the first trip to Gaza, and I'll stop sharing and visit with you guys. That was the first trip in Gaza. The second trip in Gaza, what hits me the most is really the lack of food and water. When I was there, that there's still some food and water and access to some supplies. But at this point, just on beside the last week, till April 1st, there's, especially in northern Gaza, there's people are dying from food. I firsthand witness, and I cannot share. I was asked not to take pictures, but I've seen women who gave birth, who are very frail, haven't had food for weeks, and their lack of milk, and when their kids are born, they have nothing to feed them, and they just both of them barely can talk and just whisper because they're fatigued, tired. So that's some of the scenes that we saw there. Second is because of lack of order, law and order over there. Unfortunately, some people are taking advantage of the situation, and a lot of fighting to get, because it's almost like a hunger game nowadays, with no food and everything. Everybody is fending for themselves, trying to find food and feed themselves, a family. So that's some of the things I saw recently that I didn't see the first time, and I can go more in detail, but I'll allow some time for my colleague to share his perspective, and then we can happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. David, thank you very much. And we move now to our second guest, Dr. آدم فحص. Dr. آدم هو أخصائي في جراحة العظام، درس في جامعات ميشيغان ووين ستيت وميزوري، نال العديد من الجوائز والميداليات والأوسمة، شارك في نشر الكثير من الأبحاث العلمية، كما شارك في العديد من المهرجانات والاحتفالات، حيث كان المتحدث الرئيسي في العديد منها. دكتور آدم، أهلا وسهلا فيك. Thanks for joining us. It's up to you now. Please unmute. Yeah.
Is that better now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ali Ajami and the team at the Arab American Center for Culture and Arts for inviting us here to speak. I want to thank my friend and colleague, Dr. David Hasan, for that beautiful talk to kind of set the stage for things. Yeah, we were in the same group together in December, and I don't want to rehash or restate a lot of the stuff that Dr. Hasan has already mentioned, but I do want to touch on just a few key points. First of all, I appreciate the title given to this talk. I want to be very clear that this is absolutely a genocide that is happening to the Palestinian people. There is no doubt about this. There is an absolute systematic destruction of society and Palestinian life that's currently happening right now. Myself and my colleagues that went on this trip are firsthand witnesses to this genocide. We all see the pictures online. We all see the severe destruction, the trauma. Dr. Hasan was able to show us some pictures of patients that were personally injured in all this. What I want to relay to everyone watching this is I want you to consider what happens next. So we see these pictures of people getting injured, and we scroll to the next article and we scroll to the next picture. But we have to understand that each one of these pictures is a life. Each one of these pictures is a family. And the more pictures we show and the more injuries we show, we are now showing and proving that this is an entire society and segment of population, an entire country that is now being traumatized. So even though we're able to scroll to the next picture, we now have to realize that these patients and these people, these humans, are now suffering from not only the deaths that are happening to either fathers, mothers, children, grandparents, sisters, brothers, cousins, whatever it may be. So not only are they dealing with the deaths, they're also dealing with disfigurement. They're dealing with dismemberment. They're dealing with significant disabilities. And when you create that amount of destruction within a society that has no way to support these people, this further proves the fact that this is a genocide and this is a systematic destruction. This is a way to destroy not only the will of the people, but physically they're trying to destroy the people and remove them. As an orthopedic surgeon, my specialty is treating injuries to arms, legs, pelvis. I exclusively deal in trauma. I don't do any type of elective cases here in the States. All I deal with is trauma. The trauma that I saw there was nothing that I have seen here in the States or in my training. The number of patients I saw flooding the hospital, this definitely overwhelms anything we saw during COVID. The severity of the injuries that I saw was worse. And to make matters worse, the lack of appropriate healthcare supplies and healthcare infrastructure to deal with these patients further magnifies the tsunami and the wave of destruction that's happening. So not only do we have severely complex cases that I don't even see here in the States, we couple that now with the fact that I'm not able to even appropriately care for these patients like what they deserve. So for a typical example is when someone has a severe injury, we here in the States, we perform a temporary surgery. The temporary surgery is just putting some pins into their bone, sticking out of the skin, and connecting them to bars and rods. This generally holds the arm or leg in position to give things time to heal, to give us a chance to come up with a plan, to figure out, what type of reconstruction are they going to need? Are they going to need tissue transplants to cover exposed bone? Are they going to need multiple surgeries to straighten a leg, to change the leg totally, all that? That is just a temporary surgery that we offer here in order to hopefully in the future give them definitive care. In Gaza, that is all we are able to offer patients. Very limited fixation. So just a couple pins and a couple bars, and that's it. The studies are very clear that this is no standard of care to treat patients. But unfortunately in Gaza, because they are running out of supplies, because they're overrun with all of the cases that are happening, this is all we have to offer patients. So now if we zoom out and we look farther, if we take a bigger picture view of this, now look at the next 50 years, what's going to happen. Now you have an entire population of people that has been traumatized and injured, and they are undertreated. So now you have this ever-growing disabled segment of population, and now we have to think who's going to take care of them long-term. We've seen from the statistics that it's not going to be their children, because unfortunately there are more children dying during this genocide than any other segment of the population. So yes, we're focusing on acute care trauma right now with the minimal relief that we're able to provide. But again, this is absolutely a genocide, and this is a genocide that's going to continue happening because the injuries that the Palestinian people are suffering now are lifelong injuries. These are things that will not get better and go away. This requires extreme, sophisticated, coordinated, long-term care, which right now seems impossible. So that's all I'm going to say for now.
Okay.
We hope for the best for the people of Palestine and Gaza. And I say we open it up to question and answer. We're more than happy to answer anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adam, for that. Wissam, before starting the questions, do you have something to add, to say?
Well, thank you, doctors. Any words will be short of what you have said and witnessed and have done. You are on the front line of dealing with this genocide that nobody have expected, that we're going to live in such an age where we have to deal with such a thing again. I remember when Russia invaded Ukraine, I said that the existence of tanks is such a regression for civilization. Never crossed my mind that we're going to live a living Holocaust and a living genocide again that is broadcast for the last 7 months across the world, and the world is silence and enabling thousands of people working in thousands of industries that enable this genocide on daily basis. So it is a horrible regression in our civilization. But if I may start with a question, Dr. Ali, is Dr. Fahs, you made it clear that you are that there is no question about the definition of what's going on as genocide. I just want you to re-emphasize this and maybe hear from Dr. David Hasan too. What do you say to the people who are still arguing about fitting this into the definition of genocide?
Yeah, I mean, it's I have it pulled up in my second screen because I knew this discussion would come. If you go on Google and you type into Google search genocide definition. It says the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. I don't know how more crystal clear of a definition can be provided given the images that are being brought, like you said, broadcasted to the world. I think this is the first time in our history where we've been able to really witness a war and nothing is being hidden from us. We're no longer reliant on large broadcast corporations and mainstream media to give us a watered down version of the truth and hide things from us. The world knows what's happening. People may not like the use of the term genocide, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is absolutely a genocide. I mean, if there's no excuse for the number of casualties. There's no other way other than classifying this as a genocide to somehow justify the mass destruction of infrastructure of a country. It's very clear. It's very clear.
Okay, Dr. David, can you elaborate on this? Yes, please unmute.
I personally would like to kind of focus on the healthcare and what can I do. I've heard a lot of people talk about, this terminology and others and everything. But what did you do? You listening here, you're talking. What did you do for these people? Have you gone to Gaza? Have you raised money? Have you made other things? That's what I need to focus. We need to focus for example. Just recently I came from Gaza. There's no people have no food whatsoever, and there's a lot of neurosurgeons out there that at least 4 or 5 that can't work because of safety and everything. So we're trying to raise fund for them, and there's a lot of people who just get on the internet and worried about saying genocide, war crimes, everything, and they say all that. So I came to them. I just said, hey, can you support these people? We need raising funds to kind of go have the neurosurgery department able to come back and operate. These people have not had money for 6 months, have not had a penny in their pocket, and they work 24/7. One of the neurosurgery residents, his fiance got killed. The whole entire family was disseminated, about 30 people. There's another resident who her family all living in one room, 12 of them in one room. They haven't had money and they're working. So when I said that, none of them was able to send money to help these people. So instead of focusing on that, we need to put our words in action. I firmly, strongly believe in that. And instead of focusing, let the politician worry about that. We as a human beings, let's help these people. Get out there, go to Gaza, raise funds, collect clothes. I entered Gaza, I went and bought on my own money 2 tons of baby food and diapers, and I took it with me. I paid for buses, and everything. This is what we need to focus on, guys. What's what we need to kind of. I want to ask how all these people are here, hundreds of them. What have you done for the Gazans? That's what I just want to say.
اوكي دكتور محمد، هل لديك اي سؤال، اي مداخله دكتور محمد؟
Unmute. No.
تفضل.
Do you heard me?
Yeah.
عم تسمعوني؟
نعم.
I have 2 questions. One, I want to ask doctors about pictures. If you will send those pictures to the American TV or to some institution for sensibilization the American people about this tragedy. One question. Second one is about Israeli propaganda. Said that the Palestinians hide weapons in hospitals. Did you find some Israeli allegation in your tribe for Gaza? Thank you too much for information our opinion about that. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. David, regarding the photographs.
I've managed to share these images with a lot of national and international TV stations and social media, and they chose not to share that because it's very graphic images, and they wanted to focus only on the narrative and also on some PG pictures, if you will. So that's not because of we don't want to share them. I just recently, because I focused, again, this is where we are as a group. We need to focus on is I focused only on humanitarian aid, and now we're working with different NGOs to work on water, sanitation, and we have plans and active. And a perfect example, just 2 days ago, the only CT scanner in the European hospital, there's only 2 scanners, CAT scanners are in the whole entire Gaza. There's no MRI, nothing. And this one is not functioning. So we worked with some of the companies, including Israeli companies, and they are willing to help to provide a CT scanner to help these people, because without it, you can't do any surgeries anymore or very minimal surgery. And the same thing, if you focus on the humanitarian side, you will get people from around the world coalescing around you and help you. Now, in terms of the last question about whether did we see any weapons or we didn't see. I personally did not see that. But remember, the Hamas fighters, they are wearing normal clothes. You can get in the taxi and you don't know the next person to you is a Hamas or not. And that's where the problem too is. Hamas is embedded among all the civilians and makes the problem much worse. So I didn't personally see any weapons in the hospital, but doesn't mean it exists. I can't answer that.
Yeah, just a slight comment about this specific part, Dr. David. I mean, Hamas, they didn't come, they are not extraterrestrial. They are a part of the people. Those fighters who are on the ground, they are a part of the people. I mean, if you want to eliminate Hamas, you have to eliminate the Palestinian peoples in Gaza and everywhere. So, Dr. Adam, do you have something to elaborate on this?
No, I've had the same experience. I've done interviews with newspapers and shared pictures with them, and I've received the same feedback where they prefer not to show the graphic images. And it's understandable. I understand that people may have a hard time appreciating this reality in its fullest. There's only so much words can do, and they'll never replace the images. And but you have to understand that not everyone is able to look at that stuff. And yeah, same. I mean, no, we didn't see any guns, we didn't see any weapons, we didn't see any of that. We were just focused exclusively on healthcare, and we got lost. I got lost plenty of times in the hospital. You take a wrong turn. I mean, it's hard, when there's the picture that Dr. Hasan showed with the sheets hanging down, like you lose all sense of orientation in a hospital. You can't see hallways. You can't see signs. Everything is covered up. And so I frequently got very lost, and thankfully kids would find me and tell me where I needed to go. But yeah, never once saw any weapons or anything like that there.
Okay, I have a question for both of you, Dr. Adam and Dr. David. Let's start with Dr. David. You've been there and you came back. You've been there twice to Gaza and you came back. What changed in Dr. Hasan?
One, first of all, again, this experience has awakened me in many ways. As you mentioned earlier, I was my entire life. My parents are from West Bank, and originally, but they moved to Kuwait in the 1960s, and I came to the States in 31 years. And for the many years, I was focused on just my career, and I've been on mission trips, but they're like a symbol. Once you go there, while we're sitting here, and this is what I tell you, I can speak loud And I can bang on the table because I've been there to Gaza twice. Very few people in the world have been to Gaza twice and during this. So no one can question my credibility and my love for Gaza. But once you go there, they no longer becomes images and pictures. These are people. These are human beings. They are innocent. They're caught in the middle. They have names. They have stories. They have aspirations. They have feelings. They have emotions. They have family. I give you an example. I mean, Angelina Jolie said, "I'm a woman, so is the woman in Gaza. I'm a mom, so is the woman in Gaza. I have a kid, so is the woman in Gaza. I want to provide food, so is the woman in Gaza. I want my kids to wear the best clothes, so is the woman in Gaza. I want my kids to eat well, so is the kid in Gaza." And went on and on, aspiration. And she said at the end, the only difference between me and the woman in Gaza is I was born in the United States and she was born in Gaza. That's the only difference between us and them. They're trapped, they're innocent, they're collateral damage. And once you see them and you see the despair in their eyes, you just can't help it. And I will go again, and I will go again. And I told my boss, if it wasn't for my wife and I have a daughter, I told him I would stay in Gaza. And if you want to fire me, that's fine. I'll find a job after that. But once you get there, you physically leave, but your heart, your soul, your mind, always there. And you just can't help it. It's like you lose sleep every night, which I only sleep 2-3 hours on constant communication with people in Gaza, helping NGOs, helping getting everything to get there to them. And because they are good, decent human beings. Don't think of them as Gazan or Palestinian. Think of them as human beings.
Okay. Dr. Adam, same question.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of the same sentiment that Dr. Hasan just brought up. You know, being there and witnessing this is, I mean, I saw the reactions on your faces when Dr. Hasan showed those pictures, you know, but being there brings that trauma to life so much more significantly when you're seeing the chaos, when you're hearing the screams and the cries of people. You know, we were there for our first trip together. We were there for just a week, you know, and we dealt with these inconveniences to us for just a week, knowing that, you know, inshallah, we'd be safe and we'd be able to come back. But for everyone else there, that's their reality. That's their truth. That's something that they can't escape, you know? So the fact that we weren't able to eat well for a week was okay because we knew we would go back to our lives. The fact that we knew that we would be dehydrated for 1 week was okay because we knew we'd be back in the States where we have access to all that, you know, our warm bed, our shower, our clean showers, our clean bathrooms, access to food and water. For those of you that have children, the sense of security that you can provide to your kids, the fact that you can put your child in their bedroom or in their crib, and when you wake up the next morning, you know that they're going to be there. You know that you're not going to wake up to half of your house missing. You know, all of these very basic fundamental realities and things that we take for granted, over there, it really brings to life how privileged we are. And again, I appreciate what Dr. Hasan said. Don't think of this as happening to a people in a distant land. Okay, this is happening to you and I. You know, we won the genetic lottery because we were blessed enough to be, you know, born in a privileged country where we're right now safe and protected. But to these people, it's not like they emigrated there or anything. This is just where they were born and raised. And this has been generational trauma, where not only are they dealing with this now, but this has been 75 years of oppression and struggle that they've been dealing with. And so a lot has changed. Appreciation for everything we have. And inshallah, longing to go back.
Okay. Another question also to both of you. I mean, what's happening now, it's not new. Maybe in the Western world, they think it's new. But, you know, we have witnessed this genocide or these war crimes since 75 years, since 1947, even before, and still going on. We have a couple of invasions to South Lebanon, and I've been living there during these two. My own hometown, which is called Abbasi, was bombarded and demolished in 1978. More than 500 houses were destructed. More than 130 person were killed. I mean, this is not new. What makes, I mean, the question is, with this wide scale of genocide, how this might have an impact on the Western mind, on the Western mentality, on how people are thinking. Did you witness that these things are changing in the right direction? Because before, we know that it was not in the right direction. Dr. Adam.
Yeah, I think it's very clear that the world opinion has changed. And I think that, honestly, I think it's all due to social media. I think the fact that you have the rise in independent journalism and the fact that you have the ability to now rapidly share on a global scale unaltered images, immediate video and firsthand accounts of the destruction. I think the world is now waking up and seeing what's happening. And it's evident even here in the States when, you have 300,000 people that go to DC and are protesting, and you have South Africa going to the ICJ. And I think the world is waking up. I think the world notices oppression, and it's innate in us in humans that we don't want to see other people suffering. And when we're seeing it on such a massive scale like this, I think the world, no matter their background, no matter their religion, no matter their beliefs or their language, we have a worldwide humanitarian language to avoid and denounce suffering. And I think the world is speaking loud and clear now.
Okay, Dr. David.
Yeah, I echo Dr. Fahs' sentiment. Remember, till recently, like 2005, 2010, all our media or our opinion is came from 4 or 5 channels, and I hate to say it, they were controlled by sympathizers to the Israeli people. So whatever these people said was the Bible, was the Quran to these people, because that's where they got the media. That's where they got the opinion, the newspaper. They were all controlled. And there is a wild saying is that whoever controls the message controls the mob. And as Dr. Fahs said, now with the new social media, independent journalism, anything you see, you put it out, and it's up to you to view it or not and make comments. That in itself have made, especially with the younger generation, the older generation, they're set in mind. They cannot, their beliefs. But the younger generations are more and more very sympathizer, and they see the fact they're not counting on the mainstream media and that in itself has pressured the social media has pressured the streamlined media, the major ones, to come from being biased at least to be somehow neutral. Okay, and so that helped the cause. But remember too, there has been a lot of conflict. There's been a conflict in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, and there's where thousands, and if not hundreds of thousands of people who got killed. And same thing with Lebanon. I mean, you mentioned about your town, you mentioned in 1982. Unfortunately, it happened in a time where it's under that streamlined control. But for some reason, the social media have caught it in a way, and most, the good people have took advantage of it and put it right front in the thing. And that's why if you look at what happened, Netanyahu himself got flustered, absolutely flustered with his crew. And he says, you guys are idiots. I mean, how can you not combat this PR? We were able to do it before. We were able to cover it. Now, well, we lost here. And so they did lost the PR.
Yeah.
And they are. And, then our government and around the world, they told them, if you keep going that, you're going to be isolated. And they are being isolated. And they're trying to kind of extend it to Iran and expand the war to get back some of the sympathy of the Western world. And that's what they're throwing down now. But I encourage you, these programs, like this program that you're showing, is highlight what's good. This is staying away from the streamlined media and putting the facts. But we want to focus on facts. We don't want to, because as soon as you start saying biased and not true, you are labeled. You are labeled and you're done, period. And no one will look at you again. So we want to stay fact. We want to stay on the message. We want to share so people can say, this channel, this is reliable. They show facts, and people come to you. And I think that's where in the world, the more that you start, coloring different things, you will alienate people.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to emphasize. So thank you.
Okay. Dr. David, a question to you. Despite all this genocide, despite 7 months of daily bombardment, daily killing to the Gazans down there, despite all the horrors that we are witnessing, everybody's witnessing, live witnesses, the American government is blindly supporting Israel. What message do you have to your president, to your government?
I couldn't agree with you, but I want to also kind of change. We are in a time that a lot of the people, especially the people in Detroit and Michigan, have capitalized on it and did a great job. We're in a time where the election is coming, and these guys, the number one to them is their electability. That's the most important thing they worry about. They want to be elected. And when the people in Michigan, which my hat is for them, and I salute them, when they said that we're not going to meet with you, we're not going to give you our votes, and they gave it, that made a change. That allowed the pass of the ceasefire, the temporary ceasefire by the United States. That allowed Joe Biden to put a lot of pressure on, give the ultimatum to Netanyahu and open Erez and other entries to flood Gaza. Now the food, we're over 500 trucks now. Food is going from everywhere. So we can change. The only way that the Israeli lobby, AIPAC, able to do that because they stood together. There are 6 million Jewish people in the United States. We are about 3 million people, Arabs/Muslims here. We can turn the politics. We just have to stand. Recently, there was an iftar in the White House, which is a yearly thing. I was invited to it to go and share, but the group collectively said, no, we are not going. They made a message. They gave a message. People can hear us. And that's why I said, stop talking. Let's do actions. If we do actions together, we can be like AIPAC. We can make these. Now I spoke with several senators, Senator Elizabeth Warren and others. And now we have about 29 senators, Democrats. They're all calling for permanent ceasefire. They are calling about stopping supplying Israel with weapons, including Nancy Pelosi. You saw Chuck Schumer, a prominent Jewish, went in and says, we need to change Netanyahu. So I think that's what I said. Instead of sitting here and talking, we need actions. We need, whether by boycotting, by not voting. Don't vote for Trump. He's going to make it even worse. Sending food, participating, solution. That's what we can. So to these people, the president, he knows he's not an idiot. He knows he's a Zionist. He's told you that many times. He's biggest advocate. He's been supported by the Israeli lobby for the last 50 years when he started they're gonna work with him. But what we can do is what we have done and Michigan done, and hopefully this is the whole entire U.S. Put that pressure so people can hear our voice.
Okay, before moving to Wissam for a question, Dr. Adam, what message you have as well?
Yeah, I want to remind everyone that we as Muslims, we as Arab that have now moved here to America, we as the sons and daughters of Arab that have emigrated, first generation, second generation, whatever, we are not second-class citizens. We are Americans just as much as the next person is. We have our First Amendment protected just like everyone else does. We have the right and the duty to stand up for our brothers and sisters that are suffering and to speak out against injustice when we see it. We have the right to vote. We have the right to withhold our vote. We have the right to take political recourse to help our cause. So we should not be shy to speak out against injustice. We should not be shy to speak out against American foreign policy that is hurting our brothers and sisters, that is hurting us. So I totally agree 100% with Dr. Hasan. We need to take action. We cannot sit back and think to ourselves that, oh, because I'm Arab or I'm Muslim, I'm biased in this specific scenario, so no one's going to listen to me. We need to take action. Now, whether that's financial support of whoever your local politician is, or creating a political action committee, getting together, voting, making a difference, going to the protests, speaking our minds. Again, we are Americans too. We're not second-class citizens. If we see injustice, if we don't like something that our government is complicit in, then we need to speak out against it and do something about it.
Okay, Wissam, you have
Thank
questions?
you. Thank you, doctors. And I want to also emphasize what Dr. Fahs has said, that after what's going on today, just not being active or involved is in itself participating somehow in the suffering of our people, because every single active person is needed at this point to do their best. These doctors have done much more than what's expected from them, and we all of us have to be ashamed if we are not doing our best. A question to both of the respected doctors is, when we talk about us being privileged by being born in the United States, that might be true for natural disasters, that we just happen to be in a place where this natural disaster is not happening while others are, but these are actually human caused disasters that are, decisions are made, and especially that you are living in a country where that decision is mostly made here by senators and representatives who are voting to supply these bombs and weapons and enable and embolden this genocider. And we have put these representatives and senators in their offices. So with this disappointment in our representation and government, what would be the message? I mean, you have gone beyond, above and beyond, in participating and elevating the pain and suffering from the Palestinian people. What is your message to all the doctors who are hearing you today?
Dr. David or Dr. Anyone can. Yeah.
So, message to all the doctors out there. I get asked this question frequently, what can we do? What should we do? Now, I know that, people like Dr. Hasan and I are getting a lot of the limelight and the praise for going over there and doing what we did. But we need to understand that this acute care that we're able to provide is a very, very short and small segment of the overall care required for Gaza and the Palestinians. So the short-term relief that we provide is not going to fix Gaza forever. So there is a wave of destruction and death coming even after the bombing stops. So like Dr. Hasan had mentioned, everything that we're dealing with right now, the hospitals are exclusively taking care of new injuries. So all of the chronic medical conditions, dialysis, heart problems, liver problems, kidney problems, people are not getting the care that they need. They're not getting the medication that they need. So even if they're not being killed by bombing, unfortunately, these medical conditions are going to slowly kill people until they receive their care. So yes, acute care is important right now as far as stabilizing and performing life-saving surgery. but every doctor, every single specialty has a role to play in the coming days. Now, you may not be able to go today, you may not be able to go tomorrow, but eventually there will be a ceasefire. Eventually the gates will be open and people will be able to go. And I caution everyone that your time is coming and everyone needs to be prepared to help out. Dr. Hasan has mentioned it many times so far. We all say that we're with the people of Gaza. We all say that we're with oppression, but what they need is action. They need our support. They need our hands. So everyone needs to be prepared to help in whatever capacity they can, even if you're not in healthcare, if you're in social media, if you're in journalism. There's mental health trauma coming from this. We weren't able to sleep for 7 days because the bombing would wake us up. We would feel the bombing at night. We would hear it. Now imagine you have a growing generation of children that has not gotten a full night's rest in 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever. Like, there is significant trauma coming, mental health trauma. People are going to need coordinated care. There's going to be physical therapists that are going to be required. I mean, look at the destruction in the city, the infrastructure. Gaza is physically going to need to be rebuilt. We have buildings, we have roads, we have all this infrastructure. So every single person who says that they are with Gaza and wants to help has the ability to eventually help. They just need to step up to the plate when their time is called.
Okay. Dr. David.
I agree with Dr. Fahs. And the question here, you should not, one of my talks that I've been giving into different institutions and NGOs, that the road to recovery. So it's just a matter of weeks or months, the war is going to stop. But the reality there, one, there are some realities. There's no governing body. There's no laws. It's lawless there. There's, as mentioned, the infrastructure is completely disseminated. So there's no grid to plug into it. So it takes 2-3 years. And I could go in and so the question is not just for the physician. The question is for every single person. Example, for engineers. Engineers can help a lot. There's about 50,000 kids and adults amputees. They don't have access to wheelchair. They don't have access to artificial limbs. Can you solve this problem? Absolutely. You got a genius engineer who can create us a 3D printer that we can take over there and use material to take every kid, every adult, and create from a 3D printer when the electricity on to turn it on and create limbs. Example, to have 1.5 million of people living in tents. They have no access to bathroom. They make a little hole, they pee and poop in it, and that's a spread of gas. Can you create a toilet that somehow can use the water when you flush it? It evaporates, the poop can compact it to like a really solid material, and then you can get out. Yes, there is an idea like that. Can you able to distill the water? Yes, you can. There's engineers can help distill the water. And we're working with this group where we can take it, the energy, the solar energy, other energies, the wind, a small scale, and create it where it's going to supply for like 10, 15 tons. It can be created in Gaza, even with the conditions. So we need genius people, good people to help solve these problems, not just the healthcare. There's bigger problems. There's bigger problems that we need to solve it, and not just one person. Example, kids for 6 months have not gone to school. Can you create a virtual classroom? Absolutely. You can create a virtual classroom. We are trying to work on it now, where like teachers, we put the big screen in the tent where the kids can come in and be educated. College kids, we can create a virtual room. We can create an internet, safe internet, where, like Dr. Fahs said, where you can do some counseling. There's many ways, creative ways that you can help people in Gaza. All you need to do is stop talking and do actions. Period.
It seems that you're connected with organizations who are working on these solutions. Is there a number or website that we can advise our audience to go to if they need to offer something?
Work with your NGOs. The ones I'm working with, it's more not associated. They don't advertise it. We're just working on it ourselves, university based. Like here at Duke, we are meeting and we're creating some ways to help. And surprisingly enough, this is where I tell you, like, if you focus on the humanitarian side, and I'm going again to Gaza in 4 weeks and taking stuff with me. But if you focus on the humanitarian side, you will have listeners from everywhere. I have NGOs from Israel, from Tel Aviv. They're willing to help. They're ashamed of their government. They're ashamed of their government. There are good, yes, they're bad people. Yes, we also have bad people, but there are good people there too, that they're really willing to help. They want to help. They want to. They've been advocating. They're ready to kind of jump in. They want to take patients from Gaza to the near hospitals. And so there are. You just have to look and work with your community and reach out to them. We don't have a specific site yet. We are working on it project by project, and but again, the focus. Don't put it all limited on doctors. Please make it wide open. You personally can offer, can help. You can help. Every person can make a difference. You just have to use your skills, and and advocate for it. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. Wissam, other question?
No, thank you. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
one of the ways I find that is very important in helping as American citizens is actually to be also very involved and try to influence and basically take our citizenship seriously and participating in this governance and making sure that the source of a lot of the pain that's taking place in the world stops from the United States of America.
Okay, we have passed our time, but I have one question, final question for both doctors. What was the most horrible part of your experience in Gaza, Dr. David?
And maybe to end it also positively, Doctor, in addition to this question, what is something that has given you hope in humanity from
Both
your
questions.
experience in Gaza?
Okay.
I'd really rather focus on the second part. I honestly, because there are so many things that broke my heart, and till today, it's a nightmare. And just what the people going through is so every minute was to see that, to see the kids, to see a 5-year-old comes in front of you and wish he could die. 5-year-old should never, ever, ever, ever mention that word and wish that.
Okay.
That's, when you hear that, you lost, the second time I went, I just got on my knees and cried. But what the most important, let's focus on what's in. What, and that's my thing, that my thing is road to recovery. What the most impressive thing about the Gazans is they are resilient. They are strong. They are kind. They are human beings. And they care. They care. And all we need to do is help them. Just extend our hands to them. Not words, please. And I keep saying that again and again and again because I am disappointed with the Arabs. I am, from top leaders to down. A perfect example. The person who brought the genocide case is not an Arabic country. It's South Africa. I don't want to get in politics because I'm deviating with my message. But these people are resilient, they're kind, they're beautiful, they're human beings. They just want to be like you. They want to have peace, they want to have house, they want to have food, they want to raise their kids in a good manner. So please show actions and stop talking.
Okay. Dr. Adam, same question.
I don't know if I would necessarily call it hope for humanity from what I saw there, just given the destruction. But I will say something that touched me so deeply that I didn't expect, and I don't think I'll ever see again in my life, was, I don't want to force religious beliefs or anything on people, but just as a reflection of what I saw people who lost everything they had, who had every excuse in the book to turn away from their God and their creator. And I found people filling the masjid for Salat al-Fajr every day, filling the streets. I saw teams in the hospital that their main goal was to make sure that their salah was on time. I saw people who had nothing left, but they were willing to give away their own food to feed us as guests in their hospital. And so that was, like I said, that was something I never expected to see, and something that's really stuck with me since.
Doctors, what can we say more than thank you? Sharing with us what you have witnessed down there is something we are proud of you. We're proud of what you are doing, and we convey your messages to everyone, mainly to to the Arabs. As you said, Dr. David, you are not only the only one disappointed. We are too, more than you think, more than ever you think. Yeah, we don't want to get involved into politics, as well as you have said. Thank you very much, and we for sure will be again sometime to speak up when you come back from your third trip to Gaza. Hope things will ameliorate from now till we have deep hope in the future. We, as I mentioned in my first part in Arabic, that the future is ours. The future is for our kids, and the next Eid, for sure, it will come for our kids. That's definitely nothing to say, no discussion about that. Any final words, Dr. Adam, to say before we end?
No, just thank you for the platform, and we can't say it enough. Please, yes, our hearts are with the people of Gaza, our voices are with them, but they need our actions and our support. So please help in whatever way you can.
Okay, last message, Dr. David.
Thank you so much for this platform. I applaud you, and I echo Dr. Fahs's messages. We need to show our loved ones, our Gazans, that we are with them in solidarity, in actions. You can help in every way. It's not with money or anything. You can help in many ways. So thank you.
اوكي طبعا ايها الاحبه، اشكر حضوركم، اشكر متابعتكم. وسام، لديك ما تضيفه في ختام هذه الحلقه؟
After thanking the doctors, I think that the biggest message of hope for humanity that we saw today is actually you two doctors and the people who are like you, and the pain that has suffered in Gaza and still is suffering. This is gonna empower. That's going to be fuel for us to work for human rights for centuries and decades to go. I have a couple announcements before we end. We started a new series at the Arab American Center for Culture and Arts, highlighting a new book that has been published. We're starting this Monday with our own president of the Arab American Center's new book, معجم المرادفات في المصادر والأسماء, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On Wednesday, we have the Dearborn Open Mic at University of Michigan Dearborn Library. We have a lineup of guests, among which is Krista Braun. She also is a person who lived in the West Bank and visited Gaza, and she's going to read from her memoir there. We have a Palestinian activist, Isa Muhammad, is going to talk about his experience as an art performance in the last protests for Palestine in the Michigan area. We have a special guest, David Finkel from Jewish Voices for Peace. And we have a new piece also written by the Syrian oud player, Dr. Marhaf Al-Ashqar, who's going to be there. Please don't miss it. And thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
أيها الأحبة، أشكركم مجددا دكتور آدم، دكتور ديفيد. Thank you very much, and السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.